So before I invite and hand over to our today's guest speaker, I would like to first formally welcome him. Thank you, sir, Vijay sir, for accepting our request and coming here as a guest speaker. And I would also like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about our chamber for advancement of small and medium businesses, which was founded around over 2 years ago. And I'm the current and the founding president, Nilesh Lele here. In last 2.5 years, we have done a lot of webinars. More than 160 such webinars are uploaded on our YouTube channel at CASMB India, which you can watch at your leisure. Our chamber strives hard to empower and to uplift the micro, small, and medium enterprises, which were predominantly hit during the COVID. We have done various events along with exhibitors, various exhibitions. Like recently, we were part of the Anu Food exhibition. We were part of the food ingredients. We are also part of the World Food India that is happening in November. So trying to gain forward linkages for most of our food processing members. So we have around 150 plus members. And today we're going to have an important topic, which is not just applicable for food industry, but anybody who's into packaging or who's using plastic as for packaging or in other aspects of the business. So with this small introduction about the chamber, I would now like to invite Vijay sir. Vijay sir, it's all yours. We look forward to you explaining us the EPR, the evolution, as well as what our members and also the non-members can learn from this whole EPR policy that has been put in place. Vijay ji, are you there? Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Over to you.
Hi. Hi, Nilesh. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And with your permission, I would like to start on the basics of EPR. So first, I'll walk you guys through as why EPR started and then how it is being implemented in India. That is something which I will be covering in detail. And meanwhile, I'll be also explaining as how it is applicable to various industries. So EPR, our company name is EPR Certificate.online, and we provide consulting, training, auditing services around EPR. So in couple of last years, almost everybody is hearing about sustainability, right? Now the motto of corporate has moved from profitability to sustainability, and building sustainable businesses along with the environmental responsibility has been the prime talk of the town in last couple of years. Then came the concept of reduce, reuse, recycle, which is being implemented across the world. If you talk about any corporate, any practices, everybody is today focused on reduce, reuse, and recycle. Then came the third concept of circular economy. So circular economy is basically reusing. How do we reuse the same material to reduce our impact on the environment? So typically in a computer segment, you will see that almost every part, that is service, refurbish, part harvesting and recycling, all the aspects of e-waste are being used. So coming to our concept, how it fits into EPR. EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. It is basically the environmental protection strategy, which has been brought into place by various governments. So earlier EPR was applicable globally, but this is something which is newly introduced in India. And I will walk you through the journey of EPR as how it has evolved over a period of time. Now, EPR is typically applicable for plastic, battery, e-waste, and rubber. In plastic category, it is applicable for plastic packaging. Whereas in battery category, it is applicable for any battery usage in any of the devices or battery as a individual component as well. Now, any company which is using any electronic items in their product or any company who is using any electronic machineries and they are importing them, So then e-waste would be applicable to them. Rubber, typically in rubber category right now, only the tire has been covered. So primarily as of now, the extensive EPR implementation is going on in three categories. One is plastic waste management, second is battery waste management, and third is e-waste management. The fourth is basically the tire waste management. But when it comes to applicability for F&B, you will come across these three scenarios. If you are using plastic packaging for your products, be it as a brand owner or as a importer or as a producer, EPR would be applicable to you. Let's say if you are importing some heavy machinery from abroad and it has some battery elements to operate the electronic items, in that case, the battery waste management laws will be applicable to you. Similarly, if it has electronic components, e-waste management rules would be applicable to you. Now, who needs to register for EPR from F&B sector especially? So even if you are a contract manufacturer and you are producing it for other brands, you will have to opt for EPR. If you are importing something as an importer for your business, you will be registering yourself as an importer category. Then you might be selling these products in the market under a certain brand name. So your brand owner EPR would be activated. Now, if you're a recycler, let's say if you have a plant where you're also recycling the plastic packaging that has been used for the products. So as a recycler, your EPR would be applicable. Now, interestingly, if you belong to all four categories, you will actually have to register separately for each one of them. So that means you will have a EPR certificate or EPR identity separately as a producer, as an importer, as a brand owner, and as a recycler. So typically, if we consider F&B sector who are producing, let's say they are producing packaged milk. Now, in case of packaged milk, they are consuming plastic for packaging milk. So for that, they would be for them, it would be applicable as a producer. Then if let's say they are selling those milk products under the brand name, then they will be also marked under brand owner EPR. Now let's say if recently they have imported couple of machineries from abroad, in that case, if they were the direct importers, they will have to have a EPR certificate. Otherwise, their import material will not be released from the customs. Now, let's look at the evolution of how this plastic waste management rules have evolved over a period of time. So, initially, all of this started in 2016, wherein officially the EPR policy was launched. Now, post introduction of EPR policy, there were a couple of amendments which were introduced, and with these amendments, some new introductions were done in terms of product lines as well. Now, interestingly, until 2021, the number of registrations were only 350 as a producer, importer, and brand owner, because the implementation was not going on properly, and the applicability of these compliances were also not completely covered. Right now, CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, is creating wide awareness about the plastic waste management as well as the applicability of EPR on plastic waste. So interestingly, the last amendment that happened was in 2023, which actually introduced in detail the policies related to PIBOs and the laws related to that, which are now very stringent. So in 2022, they introduced digital platform. Post that, there has been tremendous growth in terms of registering all these brand owners and PIBOs. PIBO stands for producer, importer, and brand owner. These are the three categories for which EPR is applicable. Now in 2023, from 1st of April, they introduced EPR filings. So it's not just getting the EPR certificate that is important. it is also important for you to do the compliances with the government. The CPCB has introduced separate portals for all four categories: plastic, e-waste, battery, and tires. So you will have to basically see what is applicable to you. Typically in F&B sector, most of you will be coming under Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016. Now, under PWM, plastic packaging is something for which you will be definitely responsible. So even if you are using a thin plastic, thick plastic, it doesn't matter what kind of plastic that you guys are actually using for your product. EPR is applicable. Now, if we look a bit in detail, the obligated entities, as we said, are basically producers of plastic packaging, importers, brand owners, and plastic waste processors. Now, typically, when you register for EPR on CPCB website, while submitting the data, you will also get a EPR target from the government. Now, for 2021-22, the target was 25%. For year 2022-23, the target was 70%. And 23-24, the next year onwards, the target would be 100%. So what does that mean? Is basically, let's say you had 100 kg plastic consumption, and you had done the filings for 21-22, 25% of that would be calculated for you, and for which you will have to then do the fulfillment. So I will also be explaining about how the fulfillment is done. So typically in plastic consumption, you will see that it is looked upon as a pre-consumer and post-consumer. So while you are basically feeding the data into a government website, you will have to actually ensure that you are actually segregating pre-consumer and post-consumer data separately, and then entering that information into the website. Now, in plastic packaging, they are considering four types of packaging: rigid plastic, that is category 1, flexible plastic, that is category 2, MLP as a category 3, and then you have compostable category 4. For compostable category 4, the target is 0. That's basically exempted. Whereas for category 1, 2, and 3, when you are entering the information into EPR certificate website, they will basically issue you separate targets for category 1, category 2, and category 3 plastics. Now, right now, 31st October is the last date for filing of the EPR compliances. So that means companies who have not registered for EPR certificate, even if they apply now, they will be able to do the annual compliances for 31st of October. Now, I'll just briefly explain you typically what is the process of registration and the compliances. So CPCB has provided you the portals where you go and do your EPR registration. After EPR registration, you will get a EPR certificate and a number. Based on that, you will also receive a target for the plastic consumption that is done in your organization. And based on that, you will be compiling the information and doing the fulfillment. So for the fulfillment purpose, you will be basically getting the credits from PWPs. PWPs are basically plastic waste processors who ensure that they are basically taking care of that particular weight of plastic packaging or plastic waste at their plant. So PWPs get the credit from the government for ensuring that they are actually disposing that certain amount of plastic waste. Based on that, they get the credit. And when you are looking for the compliances, you will have to purchase that credit from PWPs. Once you purchase credit from these PWPs, you will have to then reflect it into the CPCB portal as well and complete your filings by entering your bills for the year as well as the credit information. Once you do that, you will also generate annual filing report, which you will be needed when CPCB officers come to your production or the brand place. And if they ask for your reports, you should be able to submit that report and then justify whatever information that you have provided to the government. Now, for the obligated entities of producer, brand owner, and importer, couple of things that you need to remember is basically for brand owners who belong to category of micro and small scale industries, for them EPR is exempted. Now, interestingly, that comes to below 50 CR revenue for brand owners. But typically what is happening in the market is, if you're pushing your product through the distributors, and if for them their total turnover is more than 50 CR, your EPR responsibility will transfer to them. And recently there had been cases where CPCB has actually raided the premises of the distributor, and post that the distributor refused to take any product from any white label company or the brand who doesn't have EPR. So this is also kind of important for you to protect your business. So imagine if you have done a lot of production for Diwali and your distributor tells you that you don't have EPR, so we are not going to take your product for the distribution. Because if the distributor takes the product for the distribution and if he doesn't have the EPR, or if he has not done the filing for EPR on behalf of you, he will be in trouble. So this is something which brand owners need to remember. Now, typically, so this is the website where you do the registration. So at the top, if you see, you have PIBOs, PWPs, and ULBs. Even the urban local bodies are mandated to compile their details and then fulfill the EPR requirements for their ULBs. Now, many times what happens is basically plastic packaging is sold to contract manufacturers of brand owners. So if you are a brand owner, let's say, for example, let's say you are producing chocolates, and while producing chocolate as a product, you are consuming MLP, multi-layer plastic, for packaging that particular chocolate. Now, you as a brand owner would have purchased it from a contract manufacturer. But then in that case, if you're buying it from the contract manufacturer, you should ask for his EPR number. If he doesn't have the EPR number, you should not be buying products from them, because then the next stage onwards, you will not be able to report, and that will result in two problems for you. Now, what kind of problems? So if the CPCB officers ask for your audit, and if he sees that while filing the EPR, you have not taken care of the EPR obligation of your contractor, then you will be penalized for that. Soon we will be also talking about what kind of penalties are levied. So recently, in month of July, more than 30,000 companies have been issued the notices around their EPR, why they do not have the EPR, and why their consent to operate should not be cancelled. So these notices have been issued to the production factories of these places. So even if your corporate office is in Mumbai, and if your production facilities are scattered around India, each of your production facilities will get the notice, and all of them will have to actually respond to those notices. And then the possibility that the lowest possibility that companies can look at is basically where they will be penalized for environmental violation, and the penalty would be around 5 lakh rupees. Whereas the stringent penalty or the worst case scenario would be cancellation of your consent to operate for the plant. So if your consent to operate is cancelled, you cannot do business in India. So recently, the government has actually put in some efforts to ensure that MSMEs are basically relieved to some extent. With this digital provisioning, the EPR process has been simplified, but because it's a website and then a lot of people are logging into it, there are a lot of issues that are being faced by the companies who are trying to do the registrations. Also, before you start the registration, you need to actually compile all of your data related to the plastic imports or plastic consumption in your organization, segregate them properly in the pre-consumer and post-consumer plastic consumption. Now, similarly, if you are doing it for battery e-waste, the separate procedures are to be followed. But you need to, most of the times, what we have seen is companies do not have this data in a structured format, and they are facing a lot of issues because of that. So, if you guys are looking to work on EPR, we will be able to help you with that. Now, annual returns for this financial year, it's going to be October 31st, 2023. So by end of this month, those companies who do not do the filing, then heavy penalties will be levied upon them. So right now, the plastic EPR credit is available to PWPs, and from there you can purchase and do your compliances. So what happens if you are not doing it, or if you don't do it? So typically, the first thing is basically, if you do not have EPR, you are not allowed to conduct business. That has been very clear in the law itself. And if you continue to conduct the business, the heavy penalties would be levied upon you. Right now, there are scenarios where CPCB officers are raiding the premises, and which is resulting into a chaotic situation for a couple of companies. In Maharashtra, the CPCB regional office is located in Pune. So if you guys have any queries, any issues, you can also approach to CPCB Pune office. So CPCB main office is located.
This meeting is
in
being
Delhi.
recorded.
Now, while feeding this information into the website, if you add some information which is not correct, or by mistake if you are entering some wrong information, you will be liable for that information and penalized for the same. At the time of submission, companies are supposed to submit their plan for EPR, and if, let's say, if you are using some manipulated information or wrong data, in that scenario, again, CPCB officers can penalize your company, your brand, or organization, and those penalties are very heavy. So I'll briefly tell you about our company and our vision. We have been working on sustainability for quite some time, and as an organization, we are helping companies in being compliant with environmental laws. So we are helping companies with advising them on the entire EPR process as well as ESG compliances. We are also helping them in terms of integrating the right kind of technologies to ensure that all the compliances are handled properly. And we are also helping them on operational efficiency, as how you can actually leverage these new laws to create some competitive advantage for your organization. So as a company, we are providing end-to-end EPR solution, right from filing of your EPR certificate application, and post that completing your compliances quarterly as well as annually. We also have a tech solution which basically works around giving you the complete visibility on the pricings of PWP credits, and with that, you will be able to save considerable amounts on your EPR filings. So these are a couple of our clients. Now, if you guys have any questions, the floor is open now.
Okay, great, Vijay sir. I'll start with the question. Are there any financial fines like for non-compliance?
So for every non-compliance, there are fines. So for example, after 31st of October, the fine for your plastic waste would be 5,000 rupees per ton of the plastic. On top of that, there would be there as earlier I was explaining, there is a possibility of your consent to operate being cancelled by CPCB. There is also a possibility that they will impose heavy penalties. Now, the lowest penalty that they are imposing is 5 lakh per plant.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Are there any other questions? So Vijay sir, you also mentioned about like buying credits and all that, right? So that market is also liquid. Is it organized or it is unorganized, or like is there a like an exchange, or like how does that work?
So as of now, there is no organized market as such. What is happening in the market is many of these people also have fake credits, and there have been some instances wherein the wherein the credit purchased from the PWP were invalid, and then the brands or the producers, they faced actually the penalty from the government. So it is important that you need to buy it from the authorized PWPs only, who have been uh, accredited with certain credits by the government. There is a question from Gausia Begum.
Yeah.
Is it mandatory for brand owners to get EPR? Yes, it is mandatory for brand owners to get EPR. Now, if your business transaction for the year is less than 50 crore, then you can choose not to take EPR, but then you will face challenges on this when you actually approach to standardized distributors. So all these big distributors, they typically have turnover more than 50 CR. Uh, Chirag has put a question that once registered, how is the fulfillment done? Now, once you are registered as EPR with your EPR certificate number, typically what will happen is CPCB will actually send you emails informing you that your EPR compliances are pending. So once typically if your EPR compliances are pending, you basically have to log into the website, check your EPR responsibility, and then accordingly you need to reach out to PWPs who will basically then further on help you in terms of transfer of credit. Once you do the transfer of credit, and that time you will also have to upload all of your sales bills for the current year, and then you can complete your compliances. Typically this process is little tricky, so my team would be happy to help you if you are facing any challenges. We provide it as a consultancy services as well, uh, right from EPR certificate registration to fulfillment. Should the liquidation vendors have CPCB license? Now, see, here CPCB has only 4 categories. So you need to fall into one of these categories. Without that, you will not be able to do the registration. So you will have to either fall in the category of producer, importer, brand owner, or a plastic waste processor. Now, liquidation vendors are actually the traders. They do not fall under the category of importers. They do not fall under the category of producers. So and they do not fall under the category of brand owners also. So right now, a lot of traders are facing these challenges because big companies are not buying their plastic packaging because they do not have the EPR certificate. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to do the tripartite agreement between the buyer, seller, and you, so that your financial interests are safeguarded. Wherein EPR compliances will have to be done by the buyer and seller, whereas your organization just acts as a trader. But without that tripartite agreement, the big brands or big companies will not entertain you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Excuse me, Vijay sir, could you just repeat the last sentences you just mentioned about the tripartite agreement?
So typically, you will have to do a tripartite agreement between buyers. If you are a trader, in that scenario, trader of plastic packaging, in that scenario, you will have to actually do a tripartite agreement between buyer, seller, and you. Many times, what is also happening in the market is then the trader really loses the business itself. So you need to ensure that when you are putting tripartite agreement, you are adding some value to it.
So that agreement would suffice even if there is no EPR registration or a valid license of CPCB and all.
So that basically what that tripartite agreement is doing is basically the transaction is happening between you, the buyer, and seller. So it is validating the transaction, and it is also, so when the end buyer is actually filing his EPR, what they need to do is basically they need to enter the EPR details of the seller, not you. And then this particular seller gives you the letter saying that this particular product has been traded through so and so company to so and so company. So for every transaction that you do as a trader, the buyer would be different, whereas the seller is same, supplier to you is same. So in that case, for every organization that is buying from you, you will have to have that tripartite agreement. But here, the challenge right now companies are facing is convincing these companies that being a trader, you will facilitate the EPR transaction. Right now, companies are little scared because the penalty side is very, very heavy.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Maybe Vijayji, that last slide you had now of your contact details, maybe you can put it up so that if anybody who's attending here has any questions, they can reach out to you by email or phone.
Sure, I'll put it just on the screen.
Or you can put it in the chat box also. It's okay. Up to you. So great. I think we had some great discussions. So a topic which is going to be more and more important as we go along, I guess. The compliances will have to be done whether you are a small player or not. So thank you very much, Vijay sir, for taking the time out. And like I said, people who are attending here today can connect to us at the chamber or to Vijay sir also. He's also a member of our chamber. So you can directly connect to him and take any discussions forward. Okay. So with your permission, Vijay sir, we will close today's webinar.
Sure, sir.
Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody who has attended.
Thank you, everybody.